it's just something that you guys do as like being, I guess, like the project manager of the space ultimately.
And
that's
then
a lot.
we have the full interior design project, which is, again, we still do the renders and all of these things, but we manage the whole project from start to finish. Both high-end services, whether it's an e-design or a full interior design service, they're both high-end because they take up a lot of time.
I mean, it sounds like it.
And I think that's the thing with the e-design that I think is quite funny is that I was speaking to some other designers who I won't name, and I realised that I was actually offering too good a product for my e-design. And I don't think the clients that have had my e-design realise that that's the case, because obviously your client only knows what you showed them. And, you know, I was offering these essentially, you know, almost mirror images of these spaces, which it took a lot of time. Then when revisions were needed, it's really lengthy. With, you know, I was offering 3 to 6, you know, and I've had to streamline that because, you know, it all comes back down to what Ennis and I were talking about. It's a business, you know, and if I'm going to offer an e-design service, which literally is like not even a quarter probably in cost of what a full design project would be, you know, we can't deliver that type of product. That product is for people that are essentially taking on a full interior design service. And so understanding that, managing those expectations.
And even with an e-design service, you still have to have a good budget to start with. So, because, you know, we can't design a space without a budget, without a good budget. It's like I said,
you can, but then they'll say,
well, we don't. I don't take it on.
No, but I'm done with that.
I'm done with that.
Yeah,
I don't take it on.
You can, but then your name's going to be on that design if they try and complete it. So I wouldn't do it because it's your reputation.
Yeah, it's your reputation, but also like, you know, I've been in this industry long enough to now really understand what it takes to renovate a space. So I think one of the most difficult parts of a business, like you said, is managing client expectations. And I'm really big on that. I think this year I sort of want to prioritize how we can prepare our clients for renovation, how we can educate our clients to the best of our abilities so they are aware of the ins and outs of a renovation, costs. You know, a lot of them, they've never used designers before. So of course they won't understand why this costs, you know, a certain amount and why this takes months to be made and so on. So it's our duty to educate them and to prepare them. So we are in the process of trying to figure out how we can do that.
Exactly.
You know, and
I wonder whether there should be another consultation, because I feel like the consultations at the moment, they focus on the client's end goal essentially and understanding your client and so forth. Part of me is almost like, should I be having a consultation with my client, which is called the renovation I'm making this up on the spot, but the renovation consultation, where I say to my client, right, okay, now before the work starts or before we get whatever it might be, let's schedule in our 1 hour consultation to talk you through the process. So not the process, what I'm going to do for you, the actual process. And because it's little things like, I mean, I remember a prospective client, because you get so many prospective clients, being like, oh, will this project be done in, you know, how long will that all take? And I said, well, you know, for this specific project, which involved a walk-in wardrobe and stuff, I said about 3 months. I said I'm quite lucky because my carpenter, it will be able to get you in 6 weeks, right? And that's assuming then from that 6 weeks that it's
no problem,
and it's. And you know, sort of the Radio Islands afterwards. And it's like, well,
so what's the expectation, like a couple weeks?
I'll put it up for 3 months.
Like,
so to actually, before you even begin your designs, you've got to ask your client when they want this work done.
That's why, you know, like when we get inquiries in, I send a questionnaire, and in the questionnaire it has questions of what your budget is, time frame, blah, blah, blah. And then I have the discovery call depending on the questionnaire. So if a client comes back to me and says, my budget's 5,000, sorry, I can't do that. That doesn't even cover our fee. But
then, and this is the other thing I found, clients saying my budget is X, does that include my fee?
Yeah, so then, you know, we send an email and we explain to the client our process, our fees, and the budget requirements that we need to move on with a project. sometimes they'll come back and be like, okay, we can increase this because now I understand.
Right.
So then we'll have a call. I'll be like, okay, let's schedule a discovery call. And in that call, I'll explain to them briefly, you know, what our processes are, how long projects take, the realities and the costs of these projects. And, you know, a lot of the time they're so thankful because they're like, we have no idea.
Yeah.
You know, this is the first time somebody has been honest. You know, exactly.
Yeah.
So then from that conversation, I find more times they move on with the consultation, and then whether it's an e-design or a full interior design project. So, you know, a lot of the times when we do go to our consultations, we show up with like maybe a brochure or something that has detailed breakdowns.
Right.
We have like a, you know, common questions that are asked section, and list those down, and the processes and the stages. So just something for clients to look at, to understand, to educate, because the more they know, the easier the project will be.
I think so.
You know?
And again, look at it all coming back to client expectation again.
Yeah.
And you know, it's like the centre point of, sort of everything, because it affects what you can and can't do.
Exactly.
And their understanding of things.
Yeah.
It's really important.
That makes sense. And it makes me think, like, with client expectations in mind and, you know, going through the whole design process, what do you consider then to be a successful design? So you've arrived at the end of the process. How do you determine whether your design is successful?
Do you know, this is such a cliche, and I'm totally going to say it because I don't care. When your client walks into the space and they have that wow.
Okay.
When all you hear, you know, if you haven't seen it, all you hear, they loved it. And that response 3 months later, when they are living and using the space, is still the same.
Yeah. When the clients refer you to other clients.
Yeah.